All right, so unusual week, kind of having to put 3 days into one. We're only going to practice once this week, so uh, that's highly unusual and quick turnaround with the morning format practice. So pretty challenging. Don't have practice update for you because I'm not out there. Practice is still going, so unusual not to be able to give you a whole lot of info on that, but good to play at home. Really hope our crowd comes out. Hope people don't, sit and say, well, we'll just wait for SEC games. Having a crowd is impactful to your players, to their performance. It's impactful to recruits when recruits come into the stadium. So really urge fans to come out. Excited for the first walk that we've had through the Grove. First time actually stepping foot in the Grove. So personally excited for that, but we need people to come out and, everybody wants a top 25 program. Well, let's put an atmosphere like a top 25 program. So players feel that and recruits see that as well.
All right, John, start us off.
Hey, Lane, just wanted to get a kind of update on how you're feeling and how you've kind of progressed through this.
I feel great. 0 symptoms. Feel 100%. I guess you don't need doctors with these Whoop bands. Looking back over the numbers, kind of crazy that before I even knew I had it, recovery percentages were down 20s, and then the day after I got it, my recovery was 1%. So this morning I was at 90. So kind of crazy that this little thing is a Whoop commercial for you, Whoop. But and I actually remember reading in the PGA Tour how they were using them to find COVID before it was happening. So that's crazy, but I'm doing great.
We'll go to Michael.
Hey, Lane. Scotty Walden, I believe, is the youngest coach in college football right now at 31. I believe you were the youngest coach back in 2008 when you were at Tennessee. What were some of the biggest challenges as a young coach, and what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in the last 13 years or so? And do you have any advice for Scotty on how to be a successful young coach?
Well, I think the first time the Raiders part was extremely challenging because you have players that were older than you, when you're dealing with NFL. But in general, I think, relying on people that have done it before and have a good staff around you. And there's no recipe to create experience. And I've learned that that's life. That's coaching, parenting, whatever your job is, it takes experience to go through things and learn how you'll handle them. You can read, you can, kind of channel what you remember of people you worked with when things come up. That's helpful, but a lot of times you got to go through it and figure it out on your own. So I would say just really utilizing people's opinions and people that have done it before.
David.
Okay, yeah. Lane, we saw Kel Nation attempt the first PAT in the game Monday night. Then it was Caden Costa from there on out. Just what you thought of Caden's performance. Kid was in high school less than a year ago, and for him to step up like that under that kind of pressure.
Yeah, that was awesome. It ain't like he got to start off with a chip shot. So, knew he was really talented, obviously. And so it was great to see him go in, perform like he did, and gave us more confidence as the game grew. So that's, you never know with true freshmen what's going to happen, regardless of how they practice. So probably him and Ty Sheen were, the really bright spots of guys that went in and looked like they've been doing it for a long time.
We'll go to Nick.
Lane, you talked a little bit after the game about the couple of targeting penalties. Just from when you went back and watched the tape, did you see anything that maybe you didn't see live? And do you address that with the team at all, or do you kind of tell them to keep playing the same way?
No, I mean, we're not stupid. You know, we're not going to get penalties. So, unusually, for the first time, I was able to see it better watching TV than I was in the game or on watching the coaches tape. So, you know, we've obviously emphasized it, talked a lot about it this morning to them in the team meeting. Rules are what they are. So you can disagree with them all you want, but they're rules. So you got to change. And, you know, that can be done. I mean, there's going to be sometimes. I mean, the game isn't in slow motion. So, you know, when people want to say, oh, it's easy to enforce the rule. Well, guess what? The game's not played in slow motion or rewind. So when that happens in a split second and the guy lowers his helmet, so the target moved, okay, it's a little difficult. So, you know, when someone wants to say the rule has been in place forever, it should be really easy to coach. Well, you know, it ain't in slow motion and we don't get instant replay to change our mistakes. So the player can't go back when he screws up and misses his assignment and does the wrong thing. He don't get instant replay to change.
Go to Parrish.
That was kind of a long-winded answer for you.
Hey, Lane, what is Taiwan Malone's development like at this point? And do you see him becoming a factor for you guys on the line there?
I hope so. He was set back with injury, and so really had not practiced very much. You know, anticipate him practicing more and hopefully playing this week. We need him.
Go back to John.
Lane, what would you kind of want to see your team kind of sharpen offensively on Saturday? And what type of, I guess, small steps would you see them make in that contest at home this week?
Penalties. You know, way too many penalties, crucial penalties in the game that cost us a lot of yards and points. And defensively, to finish the game better. You know, we have 2 4th downs where we're not aligned right that are touchdowns there. You know, so I think we let up a little bit. Obviously, you know, look at the yardage in the first half and points compared to the second half, and we were still playing our normal guys. So, you know, we got to finish better.
Go back to David.
Lane, just kind of following up on that, I guess just the obligatory question of your thoughts on this Austin Peay team. I mean, they did beat Chattanooga last weekend.
Yeah, and they played really well since that coaching change last year and the strange season with the spring season. So they're playing really good. You know, they are challenging on defense and offense. So they play really, really hard. So we're gonna have our hands full, and we gotta improve from week 1 to week 2, and we've got a lot shorter week than they do.
Back to Nick.
You talked about this a little bit. In your mind, what was the cause of the defense kind of letting up there in the second half?
I don't know. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes. Not an excuse. It shouldn't happen. But, you know, it's the same thing when, you know, you look at a score and you got 42 points at half. Well, you don't usually score 84 points. So, you know, sometimes it happens a little bit. And, you know, we self-inflicted, like I said, 2 4th downs that we can stop them, and we're not aligned right. And they scored 2 touchdowns. And then we kept drives alive with crucial penalties. You know, so good thing is we did limit explosive plays for the most part, even in the second half.